I am so excited about today's episode. I'm going to be interviewing Megan Collier, who is a UGC creator and specifically helps a certain demographic, that 40 plus demographic, on all things UGC. Now, obviously, the things we're going to talk about are not just for the 40 plus community. So if you're not in that, don't feel like you can't listen in. But I love Megan's ability to really break down difficult topics to make them bite-sized and easy digestible for her community and now for ours. Megan has helped over 9,000 people when it comes to teaching about UGC, and she herself has replaced her own six-figure past career with the UGC one in just 14 months, creating content for brands, creating content with her mom for brands, and teaching other women how to do the same. I love that she's not about having a big following. She's really focused on helping pitch UGC. So if that's something that you're interested, make sure you watch this interview. It is going to be jam-packed with nuggets of information for all the UGC creators out there. Welcome, Megan, to Influencer Confidential. We are so pumped to have you here today with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to chat.
Yeah, so I think UGC is something so many of the creators in my community have questions about. And luckily, I think now we're at a time that more and more people know about it and know what it is. But I figured today's episode could be a deep dive on UGC, especially for people who are curious or is this something I can do? Even if I have a big influencer audience, or what if I'm just starting off and I have nothing? What is UGC? And so I wanted to make this kind of our UGC episode and kind of have you really spearhead it as a UGC creator yourself. So maybe we could just start by, you could tell us a little bit about yourself. For those that are listening in, my audience is all creators and many of them know what UGC is, but some of them haven't dived into the world. So I'd love to just start to kind of just by chatting and learning a little bit about you and how you got into UGC. Tell us your UGC story.
For sure. This was back in summer of 2022. So next month, it'll actually be about 3 years since I've been doing UGC. And, I was working a full-time job and our son was, I think, 1 at the time. And so I was like, I think I need to make a little more money on the side. Diapers are expensive. And so I was, mindlessly scrolling on TikTok like all of us do. And I saw a video of someone who's now a friend of mine, Salha. She's pretty big in the UGC space. She was explaining it. And I was like, what the heck? I was doing some social media for the company I was working with. And I'm like, I don't even know what UGC is. How do I not know about this? And so it made sense to me. That was the big thing. Obviously there's a million side hustles, but I'm creative. I kind of taught myself social media. That's how I got my full-time job. And so it made sense to me that brands were wanting more content. But I did not know that they were working with people with basically no followers. So that was a huge thing for me because I had 200 followers or something on social media at the time. And so UGC made sense. I looked into it and I just had this really good feeling about it. And so I got started right away. I remember telling my wife, I was like, UGC, I'm going to do UGC. And this is after 20 different side hustles, basically failures at that point. And I was like, yep, I'm doing it. And so I made my portfolio, just chose random products around my house, and made some example videos, put the portfolio up. Then, within 10 days, I landed my first UGC deal and I was sold on the whole thing.
That's crazy. So I kind of want to deconstruct that because I think so many people feel like you need a brand partnership in order to get started. And you're telling us what we already know, which is you want to create content for brands, go around the house, shoot content with the things that you own, with the candles that you light, with the headphones that you wear. Make this content, put it into this portfolio so that when you do reach out and pitch, you have something to show, correct?
100%. Yeah. And that's a question I get all the time. So many of my students, and we'll talk about this more probably, but Gen Xers, baby boomers who have never taken their phone and filmed anything before. So they're brand spanking new to this whole thing. And so most people are like, yeah, I literally have no content to use for my portfolio, but that's how most people start. So if that's your case, it doesn't matter. You just have to be willing to take your phone, maybe a tripod if you have it. If you don't, that's okay. But just take some products. I made my 2 first example videos for my portfolio were about the cat treats I give my 2 cats. So it was nothing spectacular, nothing fancy, but it got the job done and it got me started, just putting my foot in the door for UGC.
And with UGC, just cat video, let's just say it, do creators have to be in the content, talking head? Do they have to, be, or can they be faceless? Can they put together a cat treat video with the cat and the treat in the hand? Or like, what are your thoughts? I know there's no right or wrong, and the people in my community aren't looking for, a hard set line, but what are your thoughts on when it comes to this example you're sharing? So are we putting our faces in it? Are we not? What does that look like?
Yep, for sure. That's another huge question because a lot of people are like, again, they're not comfortable putting their face in the content. So what I have said is, I have done a lot of faceless UGC, and there for sure is opportunities in faceless UGC space, like for different companies. I had a monthly retainer client that was a nail care company, right? So it was basically all hands and nails and the nail polish. So that's an example, but I would say the biggest advice when it comes to faceless UGC, if you're wondering about that, is yes, know you can be successful in that, but also know that you will likely have more opportunities and more doors open for you if you do show your face, because it just adds that human element. And most companies want you to show your face because, again, it just creates that trust, right? But like with the cat thing, a ton of my students do dog UGC, like with their dogs, even like horses and stuff. So sometimes they'll show their face for maybe a second or two, sometimes never, but it really is, there's space for everybody. But if you're willing to get comfortable on camera, I think it's going to only help you.
I agree. And I think you can charge more. And it's like casting. I always talk about UGC as like in the audition world, right? We're looking for someone who is, 5'7" to 5'11", brunette. Like that's what they're looking for. And if you're like, hey, I'm a lady who looks like the role that they're casting, or maybe we're looking for someone who is 50 plus, has grandkids, whatever, showing your face is also helping you get the role in this way, right? And I think that's really where it's at. Before we keep going, I did want to ask, when you first started your journey, you said you put your portfolio together, you went around the house, you shot some stuff, and then you got your first partnership. Was this through like you pitching that brand direct, or was it through like a third party platform? Because at this point, you're 200 followers in, and you have just like a portfolio. So how did that look?
Yeah, so I basically just, like in 2022, and I don't know if you remember this in the UGC space, it was pretty new, like it's not new to the whole marketing world, but a lot of people did not know what UGC was. Like, I look back and there was probably like maybe 100 hashtags using hashtag UGC creator on TikTok. Now it's like maybe 1 million or something crazy. So a lot of people weren't doing UGC or weren't even talking about it on TikTok and social media. I just was like, there was a few people that I followed and I'm like, okay, they seem to be emailing people. They seem to be just like connecting with brands that way. I did not know of any platforms that were connecting brands with UGC creators. So I just went all in on email and DMing. So the first brand that hired me was the Captions app, which is now a really big app, but they were kind of just starting at the time. And so I had emailed them. I think I kept seeing their ads on social media and I was like, cool, like now I'm doing UGC. I should probably connect with them. And I downloaded their app. I was like, hey, I'm a UGC creator. I love your guys' app. I'd love to maybe chat with you about doing UGC. And I was just kind of winging it. It's very basic. I'm pretty sure I had some, grammar mistakes in there, but they got back to me like within 2 hours and they're like, yep, let's hop on a call. And I was like, okay, great. So I had to take the next day, I hopped on a 15-minute call with their creative director, whoever it was. And, I was on Microsoft Teams for my full-time job. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they don't know. And so I did that and they were like, yep, let's do it. Let's do it. They hired me initially for 3 videos. And then I was like, gosh, I really want to make some more money for this first UGC deal. So I didn't tell them, but I made an extra 2 videos for them and upsold them on that. And then they took it and they're like, yep, this is fantastic. And then they came back to me like a month later for a dozen more videos. So it was all through email.
You're like doing it the right way before, right? Because we talk a lot about this in my pitching program, getting on a call, upselling, the client asked for this, provide more. And you were kind of just already doing this naturally, which I love to hear. And you also said something that I think is a really great indicator for those of you guys listening in. When you see a brand running an ad, that's already such a major, like ding, ding, ding. They have ad budget, they're running ads. They're looking for this type of content to probably boost or put money into. So I love that Megan saw this at such an early time, but also was able to be like, I saw their ad, like I want to use their app, like it all kind of tied in. But I think that's really awesome. So I love to see that. So one of the things I think that people also kind of get tripped out about with UGC is their lack of confidence in their creating abilities. So I hear this a lot, but my content isn't good. And there's a lot of imposter syndrome in our industry, right? There's a lot of, I'm like, we all need therapy, but like, there's like a lot of like self-esteem and like, I'm not good enough, or my videos are bad. Why would anyone want that? And sometimes I tell people, you're right, your videos are bad. You got to make them better, right? And that's okay. We're all kind of like wonky when we first get started, but how do you kind of help your UGC community get through those mindset blocks around content being bad, when in fact it's probably not that bad, and that may even be the style that the brand's looking for?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is probably my favorite thing ever. I could talk about this for 5 hours. People ask me this just before we hopped on this podcast call. Somebody just messaged me like 5 sentences about how they're horrible at editing. They're super intimidated by it. And they're just never going to be able to do UGC because of this. And my thing is, everybody sucks in the beginning. I remember looking back to like, I've been like dabbling with video editing and like travel stuff before, but I remember my first video I edited trying to make a cup of coffee with my Keurig machine like 7 years ago, and it took me over an hour, and then it all got deleted somehow. So I was terrible in the beginning, but I just kept going. And that's what I always want to tell people. Like, if you feel like your content sucks, or you're not creative enough, or you have never even attempted to edit a video before, that is normal and that's okay. We all have to just give ourselves some grace, knowing that this is how life works. Like, I always try to remind people, because people get into the content space, especially like 40, 50, 60-year-olds, my mom included, because she's doing UGC, which we could talk about. But like, most people have never done this. So it's this whole new thing for them. And they forget that they've had all these years prior to doing UGC of doing hard things as well. So getting over that, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to suck. Yeah. Like, yes, you're going to suck, and just be okay with that and give yourself some grace, knowing that every single UGC video you do from here on out is literally going to get, 10% better, 20% better. I always like to give the example of my mom. Like, again, she's now 64 and she's doing UGC, and she has 0% background. She had one picture on her Instagram account. She's been a nurse for over 40 years, like nothing, never filmed a video, never edited. She went through, like, I have a course, so she went through that, and I have like 10-minute video on editing, but I did not help her with anything. She just took some products around her house, put them in CapCut, messed around with it a little bit, and her first video was a little bit rough. Like, I was like, okay, like, this for sure needs some improvement. But her second video, 3 hours later, that she sent me was night and day. And now she's so good at it. And I'm like, that can happen with anybody as long as you're willing to do it. And then also, like, giving yourself some grace and having fun with it is the biggest advice I can give.
And it's so true. Like, why do we get so intimidated by technology? Like, we've gone through hard stuff. We've done crazy other hard things in life. Like, we can overcome this as well. So let's go ahead and talk about like getting started before we dive into your specific niche of that, 55 plus creator. But like, let's start off with the getting started. For someone who has never created content before, the common question is, where do I begin? Do you think a phone is enough? Where does that person begin? I know you talked to us about you need the portfolio. Anything else for someone that is listening today and is like, wants to wrap up this episode and get started?
For sure.
Yeah. Just do it?
Yeah. So, well, for sure, just do it. But I think a lot of people skip this part. Is people hear about UGC and they think it makes sense. But for me as a visual learner, and I think most people are visual learners, it helped me so much just to look at UGC example videos, just so I could wrap my head around visually what the heck I was going to be doing if I was going to pursue UGC. You can look at people's portfolio. You could literally just type in UGC example video on TikTok and see so many videos. And not that your content that you're going to create is going to look exactly like anybody else's, but it's going to give you an idea of like, oh, okay, cool. I've seen these videos a million times. And most people don't realize, like, when they first hear about UGC, they actually don't realize that they've probably seen thousands of UGC videos and UGC creators while they're scrolling on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. But once you kind of get it, it kind of clicks and you're like, oh my gosh, now you start seeing UGC everywhere. And so you're gonna be inspired. And that's also another part of the creative piece, is like, you're gonna get inspired by other people's content. And then you're just gonna take that, whether you realize it or not, and apply it to your own content. So I think number one, look at some video examples, get your head wrapped around it visually. And then once you're like, okay, I really want to do this, then dive in and create that portfolio. And for me, and what I teach in my course and everything, is just like, start with something simple. I think so many people hear about UGC, love it. They want to do it. And then they hear portfolio or website or something, especially the crowd that's like 40, 50, 60s. They get so intimidated. So they stop before they even start. And so my recommendation is go to Canva, type in website portfolio, make sure it's a website, not a presentation. Choose a template that, looks like you, maybe like that you like, that stands out. And then just start creating content around different products that are around your house, and mess around with CapCut or whatever video editing software you want to use. And use your phone. Like 99% of the time, I only use my iPhone. And I think that also helps people who are like, okay, I need to get this gear, and I need to spend $1,000 of getting a microphone. Maybe this is against what a lot of people think, but I rarely even use a microphone because where I'm recording sounds okay on my phone. And so you can, if your audio sucks, get a microphone, spend 20, 30 bucks, get a tripod, maybe 25 bucks on Amazon, maybe a selfie light if you live in Seattle like me, where it's always dark and gloomy. But, don't overthink it and just get started, because every single day it's going to get easier and easier. But that's what I would say to get started. Visuals, UGC
Amazing.
example videos, portfolio, and get started.
And you gave us some really good action items for those listening in. Search up an example, type in UGC video example on TikTok to see an example. She told us to go on Canva and look up the website portfolio, not presentation, but website. So that way we can go ahead and publish that. And she also told us using editing tools like CapCut, which of course many of us know. These are some, starting equipment and tech just to kind of, again, lift off and just start. I tell people too, like I have a lot of people who say, oh, I want to be a vlogger. I want to vlog. I'm like, do you watch vlogs? They're like, no. I'm like, okay. So like, how can you be something you don't know? Right. So I kind of feel like creators that want to make UGC content, they should be on TikTok. They don't have to have a big following, but they probably need to be on the platforms that they want to create for to see how things work. Like, how can you create TikTok content, but not have a TikTok account? Would you agree with that? Like, do you think that creators need to, or, just get onto these platforms and start to, play around? It doesn't have to be publishing or posting, but just to be doing kind of that homework. So you know what works
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, it cannot hurt. What I always tell people, because, big thing about UGC is, again, you don't need to be an influencer. You don't need to go viral. Like, you just need to know how to take a product and create content that brands want and need for their own marketing purposes. But it does help to show up on social media. Like for literally 3 years, almost every single day, I've showed up on social media talking about UGC, posting my video examples, and it's brought me more opportunities. And I always give my mom as an example. She had an Instagram account for nothing, like just sending my sisters and I reels. And so she took it and she kind of switched it up to put, baby boomer UGC creator, put her link to her portfolio in there, and then uploaded several months ago, like 9 different video examples that she created or had been hired to do. And still to this day, brands are finding her on that Instagram account, even though she hasn't posted for months, because of the hashtag she is just posting video examples on there, putting her generation and her age. It really helps to show up. And then she can also see, she sends me different ads. She's like, oh, I think I could do this, a little bit better than this person, or this gives me an idea for a company I could work with. And that is another huge thing of like, yes, post your video examples, because it increases the chances of brands finding you on Instagram, TikTok, wherever you want to be. But also, like you said, like doing that homework, I always try to remind people, you as a UGC creator, you are a content creator. So you can't just create 5 video examples and stop there and think you're going to be golden. You have to get better at the actual skill of content creation. So what's helped me is studying the ads that I see, because most ads now, because UGC is working so well, are UGC style ads. So studying the ads I'm seeing, what stands out at me, what do I like, what makes me actually want to buy a product, and then take that and kind of use that going forward in your own content creation.
What's interesting? I do think the older types of creators are really good at the studying portion. Like they're more like, that's like how we were brought up, right? So like being able to be like, hey, take this ad and study it. That's something like I feel that we can all do. And it's something that we can kind of like deconstruct it to use it as that soundboard. Before we get into monetization and strategy, which is something that obviously I love to talk about, I want to talk about the niche that you kind of dove in to specifically, creators. I know that you say a lot, like the Gen X, the baby boomers. Why do you think there's so much opportunity for creators of this age bracket, like in the UGC space? And what advantages do these type of creators have potentially, that would make them stand out or different?
Yeah, for sure. There are so many. And I mean, I'll just go back to like a quick story about why this even came up. Because I'm 34, I'm a millennial. It's kind of random that I'm teaching Gen Xers and boomers. But I was on a call with a brand, a large footwear brand, like a year and a half ago. And they were, I was trying to convince them to hire me. It was going well. They were like, okay, we'll start with 3 UGC videos. And I happened to mention my mom, who's in her 60s. I was like, yeah, my mom is obsessed with your guys' shoes, like only wears your shoes. And they're like, oh, they're kind of like perked up a little bit and they got really excited about it. And they're like, that would be so amazing if your mom was willing to be in one of the UGC videos that you do for us. And I was like, oh, for sure. My mom loves me. Like, she'll totally do it. And so they were like, okay, fantastic. Because your mom, as a 60-something-year-old, is actually more part of our target demographic. Those are who we sell most of our shoes to. That's like our jam. And so I'm like, fantastic, makes sense. Let's do it. We did the video, performed great. They loved it. And then like a month or two later, I just got to thinking like, this is bizarre because I do not see that many 50, definitely nobody in their 60s doing UGC around my mom's age. But if this brand is like pretty big, is wanting people and has them as their target audience, it only makes sense that other brands probably are in the same boat. And so I saw nobody doing it around their 50s or 60s, some people in their 40s. And so I started talking about this. And since then, like a year and a half later, I've had dozens and dozens of brands reach out to me directly, just thanking me for encouraging these two generations to get into UGC because they're in the same boat. They are targeting those people. They want more content for people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and even in their 70s. And so that was kind of the starting point. And so since then, I've realized that the reason is because, going back to your question, Gen Xers specifically like have the biggest purchasing power. And that is, music to the brand's ears, right? They want to make sure that whoever they're advertising their products or services or apps to have money in the bank to spend on whatever it is they're selling. So I think that's the biggest thing is like the biggest purchasing power. People are active. People that are, Gen Xers, boomers, they're very active on social media, specifically Facebook, Instagram. And so if they can show up and, I like to give the example of a 55-year-old, scrolling on Facebook, if they're only seeing ads that have like 20 or 30 something year olds talking about products, they're going to tune it out. They're not going to relate. They're not going to trust that brand, and they're definitely not going to buy the product. So it only makes sense for brands who are trying to target people that are Gen Xers and boomers to put fellow Gen Xers and boomers in their ads, in the content that these people are seeing. So I think purchasing power, another thing is life experience. Like there's just so much life experience that Gen Xers and boomers have that can be related to the content they create. Like my mom was hired from Kuru Footwear, this footwear company, to do a video about these new shoes that were specifically for healthcare workers. And so it was this perfect tie-in of her age plus her profession that she's been doing for decades. That's the reason they chose my mom to do this UGC video. So I think life experience, I could tell so many stories about some of my students who have like professional experience or just life experience in general, that it relates to people, like maybe you have a mortgage or like you do have grandkids. So those are the kind of people they're wanting to target. And also just the professionalism aspect, like we were talking a little bit of like studying, like Gen Xers and boomers just tend to be more professional, which brands love. If you can make the brand's life easier, they're going to love you. And especially if you create good content for them, it's like dynamic duo. It's like they're just going to be begging for more content. You're going to make more money. So those are really the three key things: is the purchasing power, the life experience, and the professionalism that brands really love.
And have you seen a shift with brands that they're now more open to this demo?
For sure. Yeah, I have definitely seen that. And I think and I've talked with Eileen, who has a guest training inside my course. She is like a 6-figure UGC creator and TikTok shop affiliate I think she's like 57 now, but she's a Gen Xer. And that's what she said too. She said that when she started UGC, she was thinking that her age as a 50-something-year-old was going to be a negative thing. And so she never really told any brands. Once she realized her age was her superpower, she started, hey, like I'm 57 years old. I'm a UGC creator. And she said that brands, they told her that they just weren't advertising that they wanted to work with people in this age because they didn't know anyone was doing it at this age. So I think now I see, like, I'm on platforms and I'm on just seeing a lot of my students who are landing UGC deals in this two demographics is like brands are begging to work with them and they're posting it on these platforms on Backstage. They're putting the age of like 50 to 60 or 40 to 50 years old, right? So it's becoming more of a thing you see while you're on these platforms. And I've seen a lot of, just in the video example, some of my students post in our Facebook group is they see their ads all the time while they're scrolling on Facebook. They're like, oh, here I am in another ad. And they put screenshots and links to the video. So you see it more and more. And I think brands have adapted this where they're like, oh my gosh, we definitely can't be only hiring 20, 30 something year olds to target these people. So it's been this shift, I think in the last year or two, the brands are embracing this.
Especially because there's so much that you can do on the ad side, like from a targeting, you can put certain content that only, like they could have the 30-year-olds reaching the 30-year-olds and the 50-year-olds reaching the 50-year-olds. I mean, you can get so granular now with your ad and who you're targeting. So I think it makes total sense. So regarding monetization and things of that nature, you mentioned something along the lines of, oh, my students see themselves in ads, or we're seeing so many more people getting these type of jobs. Like, I guess when it comes to charging, we teach rates, we teach pitching, we teach from influencer, creator, all of that. So I think there's a lot of hybrids and crossover in what we do. But I think one of the things that a lot of the creators in our community have come to us and been like, do I charge for the amount of times they can run an ad, or do I get to up my rates because of usage, things of that nature? Like, how do you start to kind of identify how those ladies who are now getting, because they're making content for these brands to ultimately sell their products, right? So how are you kind of helping them get through those big questions around usage and ads and things of that nature?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, I mean, yes, you can charge more, and I can give some examples of that. But I think that when it comes, I always tell people, and right now, nothing is black and white with UGC. Obviously, you can do whatever you want. Beginner rates, like, about $150 to $200 per UGC video when you're just starting out. And then, obviously offering packages at a more discounted rate. So it makes sense for the brand. But when it comes to usage, what you'll find is, a lot of brands don't want to deal with usage rights, right? So they're just want, hey, we want to own the content. We want to run it for however long. We don't want to deal with the legalities of it, which makes sense from the brand side. So I think a lot of people go into it thinking like every single brand is going to pay me X amount of dollars for, 90 days of usage rights, when that's not always the case. So you have to be aware that every brand's budget, their goals, is going to be slightly different than the next, right? So I think navigating it, knowing the terms, knowing that, okay, do I want to do ad content, paid media for these brands? And if so, am I going to just charge a lot more, which I kind of recommend if a brand wants to own your content outright, just charge an alarming amount of money and see what they say and kind of negotiate in that way. And then, I've worked with so many brands that are open to usage rights of like, I have a standard rate of about, $150 to $200 per 30 days that they're going to be running the ad. And if it performs well, which you hope that it does, and that's what you're paid to do, then they're going to want to keep using it, right? So I've had so many brands come back to me like, hey, this is performing great. We're selling a bunch of our products, so we want to extend the usage right. So tell us, send us an invoice. And it's kind of that extra money that you're able to just get from UGC. That's, again, it's not always the case, but it is nice to know that that's available. But yeah, that's kind of what I say is like, just know the terms, and also know a huge thing. Even for me, when I was starting, I was very intimidated by the whole negotiation process. Like, I just didn't want to negotiate. I'm like a people pleaser just naturally.
You're like, here, just take it. I'll do whatever. Yeah.
I need the money. That sounds great. It sounds great. Yeah, send over the contract. And so that's how it was at the beginning. And then I really quickly realized that, this is a normal thing. Like, the brands expect you to go back and forth, and it shouldn't be like, oh, you're stepping on people's toes. It's just part of the game. And I think that for me, raising my rates and being willing to negotiate, and also walking away from UGC deals that did not not make sense to me and were not going to put a lot of money in my pocket, they were going to be worth my time, was so pivotal in my UGC journey. And just knowing my worth and knowing that, hey, this is a skill. Like I shouldn't get a free product. Free products don't pay your bills. I need to be paid and I need to be paid well. Really was just like a turning point in my UGC business. And I think I really, really try to empower people in my community. Whoever else is willing to listen to me is just like, hey, yes, it's okay. Everyone's journey is so different. Like maybe start with gifted collaborations if that's what you feel is best for you and that's what you need to become, more confident in this space. But also don't think you need to do that, and don't be afraid to move away from all of those gifted collaborations and go to a more paid space, because you've probably seen this too over the last several years, but so many people start UGC or even influencing, and it's like they do these things and they're excited about the free products. And, sometimes it feels like Christmas. It's super fun, but free products do not pay your bills. And those are the people that quit early and they don't see any success when they're just like, there's no money to be made in UGC. All these brands just want to give me free products. Nobody's paying me. And it's like, no, you just have to know your worth and be willing to negotiate and show up confidently in this space.
I love that. I really do. I think I actually was going to ask, do you have any, I don't know if it's an example, but like, have you seen, or maybe for you yourself, have you done UGC for gifted for a certain brand and then been able to turn that brand into a paid partner? Because I know a lot of times creators will be like, well, I already did it for them for free. How am I going to go back and tell them no? How do I switch that? Do you have any thoughts on that? Or
Yep.
you just say, leave them alone, let's pitch someone else?
No, I think that, and again, it's like a mindset thing. Like, yes, you've done free content. Why would they pay you for it? But and I'll give you an example of what's happened with me. Even with Kuru footwear, like that was the only gifted collab I did in the very first year of my UGC business. Is they sent me some shoes for free. And I was like, okay, I'm going to create some content. I posted the video on my TikTok and got a lot of views, and a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, I didn't know about this. I didn't know about this footwear brand. So that was a gifted collab. I didn't expect anything from them. Literally, I don't even know if it was maybe a year later, I pitched them and and we can talk about this, but I sent them a video pitch again. And I had done a gifted collab, talked with somebody on their team, and then I sent them a video pitch and I was just explaining to them like, hey, I am obsessed with your shoes. They're the only shoes I wear. 10 pairs of them. Like I love you guys. I'm so obsessed with you guys. I know because I can create more content for you that people love because of this video I've already done for you. I posted I show them all the comments of people interested in their shoes now. And I just kind of showed them tangible results that I've already done for them. And then I sent them this video pitch, and then they were commenting on the Loom video. They sent it to their entire marketing team. They were like, Megan, we love this so much. Oh my gosh, yes, let's hop on a call. And then I hopped on a call with 4 people on their marketing team. And I used that because when I was on the call with them, they actually only wanted to do another gifted collab with me. And I was determined. I just was so confident about doing this deal with them. And I knew I could provide value. And they had never paid, this is crazy, but they had never paid any content creators before. Influencers, UGC creators, nobody. They've only done gifted collabs. And so I was like, I totally get it, but I know I can do this for you. So let's just start with this. And I kind of just laid it out visually for them, what it would look like to work with me. Because when a brand is new to the UGC space, even like these big brands maybe that you're working with, and most brands are doing UGC, but at this point, it's like when you're working with a brand who is brand new to this concept of UGC, they've only worked with influencers before, maybe you have to lay it out. Like you have to just dumb it down for them and be like, hey, you need more content. I can make content for you. You can use this for your own marketing purposes. You can use this on ads. You can do whatever you want with it, right? So laying it out visually was super helpful for me. But the gifted collab in the beginning, which I was usually very hesitant to do, ended up working really, really well in that specific example for this company. And I think that as long as you're willing to provide value and explain what the heck you're going to be doing for them, there's a way bigger chance they're going to say yes. And that's something that I think so many people forget, is they kind of make it about themselves and they fail to make it about what they're doing for the brand. But at the end of the day, like I try to explain to people who are brand new to the whole content space, is what do brands want? They just want to make more money. They want to sell more products. So if you're able to come and say, hey, I can help you sell more of your products, make more money, be more profitable with the content I create, then let's go forward and you can pay me X amount of dollars, right? So that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
helped
yeah.
with me in that space.
No, I love that. And I think that's a good example of like using a gifted in your benefit to help you then land a paid partnership. Last question to monetization, and then I kind of want to go on to some like content tips and action items. Is there a sweet spot of the number of clients to do like UGC, like in terms of retainer clients, like, or what would a standard retainer client ask for? Like, how many videos a month are we seeing? I want to kind of paint the picture, if you're doing these one-offs, okay, how many one-offs are reasonable a month? Or if you're doing retainer, okay, we're doing 3 retainer clients, they each need 15 videos each. Like, what is that? What are different scenarios, or is there a sweet spot that you want to stick to before you have to, like, I don't know, bring in an assistant or say no to people because you just can't do anymore?
For sure. I'll just talk from my own experience because for me, again, and this is like most people that get started, especially like I was working full time, I had a, 1 year old. There's a lot going on in my house. Like I was already a little bit overwhelmed. I got a new job a few months into UGC that was more demanding. For me, UGC was, I just found pockets of time. So I was very, very like, I was cool with doing the one off. And like, I always try, and this is a little tip of like, it's way better to do 5 videos for one brand than one video for 5 separate brands. It's just easier, going to make more money. So that's my biggest tip for that. But like for me, like I was totally cool doing one off like UGC deals and it was working. I was very, very intimidated by doing and taking on a monthly retainer client because I just felt like, oh my gosh, there's going to be another part-time job. It's going to be so much content that I'm creating. And so I got like one pretty small monthly retainer client from a beverage company and it was very simple. So it was like them sending me the scripts, the video examples. It was just like really simple to do those videos. So I was like, okay, I can handle this. And so that for me, I was making like probably with my UGC business at that time, like 6 months into it, making like 3,000 to 5,000 a month, maybe on those really, really good months, doing it super part-time. And so I took on that monthly retainer client. So that felt okay for me. For anybody who's listening, just like a full-time job plus having kids, taking these smaller monthly retainer clients. But then once I got an opportunity to take on a bigger monthly retainer client, which was all the Instagram videos for this one C-list celebrity company owned like luxury home product company, I was doing all their content and I was super intimidated to take that on, but they were going to pay me $3,000 a month. And I was like, oh gosh, that sounds like really, really good, right? Because I could pay our entire rent for the month. And so I took it on. And what I'll say about monthly retainer clients for anybody else who is intimidated on top of whatever else they got going on in their life, it's going to get easier and easier as you go because you're going to get to know the brand more. It's going to be easier to work with them. The communication is going to be easier. And it was so helpful for me to take on that monthly retainer client because then I could kind of, pass on these one-off UGC deals that were paying me less. And it took up less and less of my time the more I worked with these companies. And it was this huge shift. Like I owe most of the reason I quit my full-time, like I replaced a 6-figure job with UGC deals only. And most of that is because of my monthly retainers. Oh, that was like the light at the end of the tunnel for me was like, oh my gosh, this brand's paying me $3,000. This other monthly retainer I have is paying me $1,500 a month for 5 videos that they literally just use on Instagram. So they're like 10 to 13 seconds long. I could bust them out in a half a day. Then I got another one that was paying me like $4,500 a month. So it was like a relief to me knowing that these brands are out there wanting consistent content because then it's not exactly like a paycheck, but you're getting this consistent income coming in and it just makes you feel so much better, especially if your goal is to quit your job. So that really helped me. But yeah, monthly retainer clients could be a huge game changer for people.
And how long do these retainers typically last, would you say? Like, is it on average?
It just depends, obviously, for every single brand. But I had 2 retainer clients that were like a year long. And then I had another one that was like 4 months, another one that was 3 months. So it's going to be all over the board. But I think also if you're like showing up and you're creating content and they're liking it and it's performing well, you have to keep you have to let them know that you want to keep doing this, and you have to keep showing that value, because then your contract is just going to extend longer, because that's all they want, is like they want good content. So that's a huge thing, is just create good content and keep telling them that you want to keep creating content for them, and it'll extend your contract.
Lastly, before we move on to like workflow and content tips, because I think a lot of creators want to know about that when it comes to UGC. When we say a $4,500 UGC retainer, let's just make it up. It doesn't have to be someone that you're working with, but how many is it, like a video deliverables? Are they telling you, like, what does that encompass, right? So is it just, hey, here's the video edited, ready to go? Is it scripts? Is it research? And what would be a typical number? Because I want people to be able to understand, hey, you're going to get a client for 3K a month or 4K or 2K or whatever. And this is typically not a per price video, but like what kind of is included in that end delivery for the client, so that they know, oh wait, yeah, it's 3K, but it's also 15 videos that are 30 seconds each and they're already edited. Take us into what these typical packages kind of consist of. And besides the video, are there other things that are going into it? I know one thing we've heard a lot in the UGC world are hooks. Give us different hooks for each video. So yeah, let's dig into the meat of what that kind of looks like.
Yeah. And again, I mean, obviously every brand's
Of
gonna be
course.
different, but for me, like I've seen mostly it's either, hey, we want, like for that example, it was a clothing company that had just needed more Instagram reels. For that, it was pretty simple stuff, right? They gave me like some inspo videos and everything, but usually I think that brands either want, hey, we need just more content for Instagram or TikTok, whatever. 10 videos a month, we're going to pay you whatever you charge, 2,000, 2,500. And so looking at it like that way, I think you have to, number one, know what you charge per video and what your time is worth, because that's the biggest question. Because I see so many people that start UGC and then these companies understand that, oh, okay, this is maybe a new UGC creator. We're going to only offer them $2,000 for 30 videos a month, like posting every day. And they even want you to run their own social media accounts, right? So that has to be something that like, okay, this is going to take a lot of time. This is not worth my time. So I've seen a lot of companies do that right now. And they're like, hey, we want you to run our social media. We want you to actually create a TikTok account and post every single day. And we're going to pay you $1,500 a month. Those are no-goes. Like, that's going to be way more work. Even if they claim to give you creative freedom, it's going to be way more work than you even realize. So I say, like, that's a red flag. Even for new beginners, like, it's very tempting to take on, oh my gosh, it's a 4-figure deal. Like, I could do this. Don't do it. For me, I actually offered some social media management as an addition, just because that's what they needed at the time. And that's what got me the retainer. So
But charge for that, right? It's like
charge
we're
for that.
charging
Yes.
for that. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, it's taking up brain power, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking at trends, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing research for them. So you have to charge for that. It's not just, hey, I'm making videos and I'm sending them and you're saying, hey, that's great, and you're getting paid. You're using a lot of your skills and your brain power and time. So those monthly retainer clients that want a little bit more than just the typical UGC, you're going to want to make sure that you charge more for that. And I also will say, sometimes you don't know, right? Like, sometimes you start working with a brand and you're like, this is going to be the best thing ever. And then they are a nightmare to work with. So what I always recommend is start with like 30 to 60 day contracts where you're like, yep, I can get through it in 30 to 60 days. Even if it's horrible, they're still going to pay me, have a contract in place. But then if it goes great and you love working with them and you want to keep working with them, great. Then extend that contract and then make that super clear to them, communicate with them. So the retainer clients, like, everyone is going to be so different, but knowing what you're worth, what you charge, what time you're putting into it, and what you're offering is going to help you just across the board, no matter what comes your way.
Does a brand expect you or your students to like also idea gen? So they're like, hey, we want 3 videos on this. Like, are you guys saying, okay, yeah, sure, sounds great, I'll do 3 videos. And then I'm giving you like 10 ideas and then the client picks 3. Or you're also kind of doing mini scripts or storyboards so that you don't film and then they're like, we hate it. Like, how do you kind of put measures in place so that when you are giving the client videos. You're not doing reshoots, or the expectations are set from the beginning.
Yeah. And I've seen mostly brands, for me, for my students, they usually come with ideas, but then they're also open to other ideas. So a lot of times, like a lot of my students get scripted UGC deals where it's just, hey, we have these scripts for you. Here's some video examples. This is what's worked really well with our ads. Replicate this. And that makes it, kind of easier just because you're not using as much brain power. But I think also like being willing to do that maybe and showing that you can, like you've got ideas for them. Like that's landed me so many UGC deals where the first pitch I say, hey, I've got 3 UGC ideas for concepts for you. This is what I'm thinking. This is why I think it's going to work. And then it's like, green light. They're wanting to work with me. So I think, again, it's all different, but a lot of brands come to you with ideas, whether it's like a bullet point list or they send you tons of brands send video examples now because UGC is working so well in the ad space, in the marketing space in general, that they have these winning ads that they literally just want to replicate. And a lot of my students are doing that while also being empowered to be like, hey, I was thinking of this. Like I have one of my students who's a Gen Xer, is crushing it in the UGC space. She comes from like a TV producing background. And so she comes to these brands and she's like, hey, this is my background. I know you sent me this ad script, but I've actually got a better idea for you, or I've got a different idea for you. Can I tweak this? Are you okay with me tweaking it based on my experience? And like 10 times out of 10, they say, yes, please, that sounds amazing. Then she can charge more because of that experience, because she has these results, which is also a really, really great thing.
That's so great and exciting to hear because, I think it shows that there's so many things that go under it and brands are open. And this has been a really refreshing, exciting convo. Just lastly, because I'm really trying to think of the creators in my community, and you're providing so much great, helpful UGC tips regarding content tips like, time, length of video, formats, talking head versus B-roll voiceovers. I know there's no magic formula, but do you find that your clients have preferences around format, what does well, what trending sounds like, I don't know, or trends in general? Like, do we stay away from trends in UGC or do we embrace them? What are some content tips for those that kind of want to get in that you would say, this tends to do well, stay under 30 seconds or stay under a minute, or does UGC is it only short form? Like what kind of give me some pointers around the content tips for those listening in that want to create
Yeah,
some content.
definitely. Definitely. I think that it's different. But like for me, I've done anything from 10-second videos for Instagram Reels up to, several minute videos, right? And some of my students, somebody just landed like an 8-minute script read for somebody that found them on Fiverr. So the mix is there right now. And for the last year or so, I've done mostly paid media just because it's just been something that I've become better at. So a lot of brands come to me and they want ads. They want Facebook ads. They want Instagram ads. And what seems to be working well, again, I study ads all day long. So what seems to be working well is, number one, you have to start with a good hook. Like that is huge in anything you're doing, but especially these quick little ads that people are seeing and they're scrolling mindlessly. So hooks, getting really, really good with hooks and being willing to offer multiple hook variations for these companies that are going to be running ads on your content is so big. And even if companies don't realize it, like they might not ask you, but then you could even just do it. Maybe you do it for free because you want to keep working with them, because you just are like, hey, it takes me 5 minutes to do some extra hooks. I'll just give this to them so they know how much I love working with them. They're going to want to hire me again. So doing hooks, getting good at those and testing them is something that I see working really well across the board. Go ahead.
So I just want to ask, because I know my people. So are you literally just filming different intros, like 5 different intros when you say giving them different hooks, or is it text on screen hooks?
Well, it could be both, but it's just like talking. So like if I had, one UGC concept and I was like, hey, 3 reasons why these shoes are the best shoes for people with plantar fasciitis. And then I'll just cut that out, duplicate it inside CapCut, cut it out, and then make another one. And I'll probably just film all of them in the same, right here while I'm filming, film it all, and then edit it, splice it up inside CapCut, whatever you use, just so you make those duplications and you're not like switching and it doesn't feel weird, right? So yeah, that's what I would say to do. But again, most of the clients I work with, like, they're open to ideas, but a lot of them, if they're paying me a lot of money, they have ideas. Like, they come to me, their marketing team has thought about this like day and night, and they're like, hey, this is what works. This is what we want you to do. So usually they'll even have like a list of hooks. If they know that they should be testing hooks, it's great. It just makes it super easy.
It makes it amazing. And that's also refreshing for the people that are just starting and they're like, well, I don't know. I have no idea. Like it's probably helpful
Yes,
for the beginners too.
totally. It's really helpful. And that's the same with
And
video
even
editing.
asking the brand, right? Like, hey, by the way, before we get started, are there specific hooks that you would like to include or that have done well before? If not, happy to think of some, but just like putting it on them
Yes.
as well to be like, yes, actually, we love this or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, you know?
Yeah, and that's another thing is like the communication thing. A lot of a lot of people are like, "Oh, but I'm not going to know what to do when I work with a brand." Most brands will tell you. However, they also expect you to communicate. So don't ever be afraid of saying, "Hey, this just wasn't clear to me. Can you just expand on what you want me to say at the beginning of this video or anything you don't want me to say?" Cuz that is huge. Like don't be afraid to ask these brands. This is their job. So they can answer it for you. But yeah, that's like what I would say about that. And then for ads, typically they're going to be shorter in length. For Instagram Reels, the trending question that you had. If you're doing organic content, and you want to do organic content for companies, study organic content. Study the reels you're seeing while scrolling on Instagram. Study what you're seeing on Facebook. They can work, but also the longevity of it, is not like an ad where I know it's like not typical, but I've made ads like for Kuru footwear, it's like they're still running those ads a year and a half later, which is almost unheard of in the ad space. But it's just because they're not trendy. They state the problem and then they go into the solution. So that's really what's working really, really well for ads is knowing who you're talking to, the audience you're talking to, stating the problem, agitating that problem, and then going smoothly into the solution, which is the product.
So
That's,
cool.
ad 101.
I love that. And well, anyways, well, first of all, Megan, thank you so much for being here today and sharing all your wisdom. I will include in the show notes, Megan has given us a special link to her UGC program. So I will include that below. Megan, how else can people connect with you? Where can they find you? Tell us all the places, and I'll be sure to also include those in the show notes below.
Awesome. Yeah, they can find me. I'm at Megan_UGC over on TikTok and Instagram. I try to go live on TikTok quite often to answer questions too. So feel free to follow me over there and hopefully I can connect with you guys soon.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I love, I also specifically am excited that you have a niche within UGC 55 plus or Gen X boomer, but I think anyone at any level can learn from you. You're in the ground. So I don't think guys, if you're listening, and you're not in the Gen X boomer, it doesn't mean that the tips are any different. They're just as valuable. So thank you again, Megan, for sharing your UGC journey, a little bit of your mom's, and really kind of taking us behind the scenes of these partnerships, content tips, and all the things that we need to be successful in the UGC world. This was really exciting. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been super fun.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode with our very special guest. But before you jump off, I just wanted to let you know if you are a creator that is interested in working with me directly, I'm going to go ahead and leave in the show notes different ways that we can work together, whether it's through our signature Pitching to Brands master course, or if you're looking for a little bit more one-on-one support, I'm going to go ahead and leave all those different ways so that I can be a part of your pitching and creator journey and you can be my next testimonial. We also have a free training for all creators on how to land paid brand deals. So you guys can also go ahead and watch that training if you haven't already. That includes not only strategies for outreach, how to get a brand interested in you, and what to say in that first email pitch. I can't wait for you guys to watch it. I'll also make sure to link that below.